older you sound. Yeah? So if I could give you one very, very simple trick is don't use the word digital anymore. Because if you use the word digital, you sound like an old guy. Yeah? Maybe we just have to avoid it and just get over it altogether. Huh? So that's a cynical conclusion of a lunch. I want to quickly touch upon some of the subjects. We talked about the security and immunity, and this is privacy. Yeah? And this is our concern, because you're business leaders, you're CIO, you deal with this on an almost day-to-day basis, right? And this is a major challenge to us in the profession as well. But I'll tell you a story. I work with a lot of different industries, and one of the industries that is probably the most paranoid about security is the pharmaceutical industry. I don't know if there are people from the pharmaceutical industry here, but they are extremely paranoid. They are wonderfully paranoid. They are borderline schizophrenic. That's how paranoid they are. Huh? And I love them because they're some of the finest customers I've ever worked with. This is a true story. A while ago, a pharma company we were working for had a big business in Europe and a big business in the US. And one of the marketeers wanted to communicate, collaborate with his colleague in the US. Went to IT and said, I need an environment, a space, where I can share documents, I can upload documents, I can communicate, collaborate, video conference, wikis, blogs, and everything. And the IT people said, yes, that's a collaboration platform. And the marketeer said, great, I need one. And IT said, yes, we're working on one, and you will have it in 7 months. And the marketeer said, but I need this next week. Yeah? And IT said, too bad. Yeah? So the marketeer went through the internet online, for $79 rented an e-room platform under the corporate American Express radar screen, and did everything he wanted to do and communicate and collaborate with his colleague in the US. Within 3 months, there were 400 of these e-rooms out there, used by this pharma company, sharing the most confidential drug discovery pipeline documents the company had. And all IT saw was, well, there's a lot of traffic on the firewall today. Yeah? They had no idea. Huh? So my message is, if we're not careful, and we're not quick, and we're not fast, and not responsive, reality will pass us by. And we can keep discussion about security and immunity and privacy for a very long time, but the reality is that the speed out there is probably faster than anything we do on the internal. Another observation, we keep talking about the digital natives as if they would be one group. They're not one group. I have a very disturbing message, and the disturbing message is it's a continuous evolution. I was at a family reunion over Christmas, and I observed 2 of my nephews. One of them is 11 years old, and the other one is 15 years old. And the 11-year-old was explaining to the 15-year-old exactly how to get a Nintendo DSi online. And the 15-year-old had eyes like that. Yeah? So it's not a cutoff between immigrants and natives, it's a continuous progression. And I think what we will have to do is really look at this evolution and learn to deal with this. I want to focus briefly on 2 subjects. We talked about digital natives as employees, and we talked about consumers. Depending on your circumstances, one will be more important than the other. Don't forget the consumers. This is a true story, and Brice was actually there. I've been with the same bank for 25 years, and I love this bank. Yeah? I hate it, but I love it at the same time. And I do everything with the bank. Insurance, banking, my private banking, the companies, the insurance, everything is with this company. About 1.5 years ago, I got a letter from the insurance part of this bank saying that there was a problem because we live near a river. And they sent me a letter saying, Mr. Hinson, you live near a river. And that was very nice of them because we knew, but it was nice of them to send me a letter on that. You know? And they said there might be a flooding problem and we're going to raise your premium. And if you have a problem, you can contact us. There's a telephone number, there's an address, there's a fax number, and there's an email address. So I sent them an email. I said, we live on the high ground of the river. On the low ground, there's a flooding basin, so the chances will get wet very small. Sent them an email, never heard from them, and I thought, great, problem solved. Yeah. 4 months later, I get the premium, and they raised my premium by 837 euros, which I thought was a lot of money. So I call up my branch manager, who I've known for 25 years. And he says, oh, Peter, dat moet een vergissing zijn. Hè. Binnen een uur bel ik u terug. Within the hour, he calls me back and says, I have a problem. Apparently, we sent you a letter and you never responded. I said, well, that's strange. I'm behind my computer, Outlook, sent items, I have it right here. He said, could you fax that to me? Well, that was the first problem. Yeah? Anyway, they never found the email. 3 weeks after that, Brice and myself were invited to Spa to have a wonderful brainstorm with the management team of this bank on how they could be Web 2.0. And I told my little story, and they were very pale bankers. And they were very nice. By the time I got back from Spa, the money was deposited on my account. Commerciële geste van de bank. Huh? But the point isn't about adding bells and whistles to the facade of your website, putting blogs and wikis on your front end. It's about fundamentally rethinking the relationship with your customer that will become a digital relationship. It's about the core and not about the facade. It's about the fundamentals and not the ornamentals. And I think that's something we really have to take into account. The last thing I want to say is about digital natives as employees. I think it is a necessity for us to actually work with them and to think about what it means for them to join your company. And I'll tell a little story. When I was a little kid, when I graduated, I had a very difficult time in finding a job, and I started working at Alcatel. And I was a young engineer. I worked at Alcatel. Very first day at Alcatel, I was so glad to have a job. I had a whole day where the HR department told me about how wonderful it was to work at Alcatel. And the first thing they did is they showed me the org chart. And it took them four hours to explain the whole org chart. Yeah? And apparently they said, this is your boss, this is your boss's boss, this is the boss of your boss's boss. And they showed me that there were 11 layers between me and the CEO. And when I went home that day, they said, and if you're really good, you can make a promotion every 4 years. So I went home and thought, 4 times 11, I'll never make it. And it was a very motivational first day. Huh? But we grew up in a hierarchical, top-down, vertical type of thinking. Next generation of digital employees thinks vertical. They think in communities. So they think horizontal. They think in communities. They think in networks. They think in fluidity. They no longer think in the old top-down hierarchical thinking. And it's not just about the tools, but the tools are important. If you have young people who did their thesis at university using Twitter and Facebook and chat, and on the first day they join your company and you say, maar chat, dat doen wij hier niet. They think, my God, I have joined a Romanian orphanage, but not a real company. So I think we really have to be careful about what we're going to do at this respect. It was interesting to hear the debate, but it wasn't a real debate. You had 2 CIOs of companies like Coca-Cola and Van der Moortelen, who are very much real bits companies. And you had 3 CEOs of high-tech companies. Cisco is a high-tech company. Brice, you run a high-tech company, and you run, a high-tech company, whether it's electrical or electronical or digital, it doesn't matter. But it will be interesting to also hear the point of view of the CEOs of the bits companies, the real companies. And I'll tell you a story. 2 weeks ago, I visited Thomas Cook, the airline, in the travel agency. And they said, our world has changed completely. Completely. We're a bits company. We have planes and hotels and real stuff. But our business has changed overnight because of digital. Our company 10 years ago was a company where we had 2 moments. The voorjaarscatalogus and the najaarscatalogus. And the whole company was organized around 2 pivotal moments in the year where they published the 2 catalogs. Now, because of digital, he said, we are a continuous 24/7, 365 operation. Digital changes everything. But if it's normal and it's a new normal. We will have to learn to adapt with that.